arms! They are here!
Good evening, and welcome to the Watchmen's Report. I'm Cody Higley, and as always, we're joined by Jason Foreman and a very special guest tonight for the audience out there. We have Kevin Davidson, who is one of Marion's three county commissioners. So, Kevin, welcome to the Watchmen's Report.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for having me here. Glad to be here.
Yeah, we're really happy that you decided to join us. Gives our audience a chance to get to know you a little better. I know you've been around Marion your entire life.
Yep.
And there's a lot of people that are already well acquainted with you. But for those out there who may not be, we're going to learn a little bit more about you, about your early life and your career in law enforcement, and also your recent entry into politics and your experiences. You got a year under your belt as Marion County Commissioner, so we'll talk a little bit about that, and then also some of the budget challenges facing the county and plans for 2026 and 2027. So should be a really good show, folks, and keep in mind, if you have any questions or anything, comments throughout, Jason tries to keep an eye on the Facebook comment section, so feel free to drop them in there. And if we have an opportunity to ask those questions, we'll do it. So, Kevin, as I understand it, you grew up on the west side of Marion.
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. Born and raised on the west side. Glenwood Elementary School, Edison Middle School. Both are gone now, but
Yeah, a good lineage, a good. Now, how was that neighborhood over there when you grew up? Has it changed a lot? How was it when you were there?
well, my mom still lives over there. And it's the houses look the same, but then the neighborhood's not the same. When we grew up, there were probably 30 kids all within 5 or 6 years of each other. So everybody that moved into that area was about the same age and all had kids at the same time. So we all had friends, and our brothers and sisters all had friends their age, and we all just hung out together, played ball together, rode bikes together, played in the fields that were right. We lived right on the edge. Our dead end street was right on the end of the city limits, close to Whirlpool, and that played in that big field back there, and the field to the south of it. Just ran around and had a great time. Long before that was that I don't care what you do, but get out of the house and be home when the street lights come on. So.
Yeah, the good old days.
Yeah.
I know when we had Councilman Ron Prater, he was talking about growing up in Marion and how many kids there were in his neighborhood and how everybody played, and just kind of an idyllic. Obviously, there were issues as well in those days, but a lot different than today, I think. So your dad worked at Tecumseh, is that correct?
Most of the time, yeah, worked at Tecumseh.
Now, was he there when they went out, when the strike happened?
Yeah, unfortunately, yes, he was.
What was, now, just because I think that's an interesting part of Marion's history, the 70s and 80s unions and the exodus of manufacturing. What was his opinion on the whole Tecumseh situation in the strike?
Yeah, it was pretty upsetting to him. He'd been there a long time. He was maintenance. He was big with the union. He was, definitely a union guy, and that's where I got my background in that as well. It's very upsetting when that goes. Of course, it's your livelihood, and you try to make do after that. But he did good. I mean, he did well, take care of us, my mom and her business, and I don't remember ever being in big want for anything.
Now, where did she work?
She's a beautician. Matter of fact, she'll be 84 this summer, and she's still cutting hair a couple days a week. She has her own business on State Street. Yeah,
Oh,
Davidson
nice.
Style Shop. Yeah,
So you got free haircuts when you were a kid.
all the time. I can't think my entire life. I probably paid for 7 or 8 haircuts.
Hey, that's saved
what
it
my
'cause
mom
now
did when I was
I'm
growing up
paying
too.
20 bucks a pop.
Yeah,
Every time
right.
you go in there, $20. So good to have somebody in your family doing that for you. And you were the oldest of 3 boys, is that
yeah,
correct?
3 of us. Yep.
And I got to offer my condolences. I know your brother, your youngest brother,
Baby
passed
brother,
away.
he died just before Thanksgiving.
Yeah, my sympathies to
Thank,
you and
thank,
your family
thank.
on that. So you have this upbringing on Marion's West Side and attend Harding. You were also a Boy Scout and actually earned
Eagle
the
Scout.
honor of Eagle Scout.
Yeah, 1980. Eagle Scout 1980.
What was your project?
Our project at that time, the elementary school, Glenwood, it was going through a renovation. That's long before they tore it down. We summertime they were cleaning out all the school classrooms for new furniture, and our project was to organize the work crews to get in there and clean out all the desks and get the floors, cleaned out and ready, and for the maintenance people to sand and paint and whatever they were going to do. But our job or our project was to clear out all the rooms and get them ready for the maintenance crews, the work crews.
Well, since that's you look at the history of leaders of this country that have been involved in scouting, and especially those that uh, made it to the very pinnacle of Eagle Scout. What lessons did you learn from your career in scouting that you were able, if you were to say, scouting changed my life in this way for the positive, what would it be?
It would be working with a team and leadership. Yeah, those are the 2 ones. Learning to work together with people from all different backgrounds, and then leadership.
Yeah, and those are core lessons to be learned, I think, especially in the formative years of youth. So that's pretty impressive. I don't even know what percentage of scouts become Eagle Scouts. It's really low, isn't it?
Oh, it's very, very low. At one time I could tell you that, Cody, but right now I couldn't even tell you the guess of that. But I'm sure it's steadily gone down from what it was in 1980 there. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, you've always had an interest, as I understand, in working in law enforcement. And I saw an article when I think it was when you were selected as deputy of the year in 2015, I think is what it was. It might have been a different article. There were several about your career with the Marion County Sheriff's Department. But tell us the story about how you were inspired to get into law enforcement. As I
Well, it's one
understand,
of
there
those
was
things, as a kid, you always say, hey, cops and firefighters, and those kind of things you want to do. And we had a project in the 5th grade in Mrs. Spawn's class of, what do you want to be when you grow up? And we had to clip out articles and do some research, write a paper, and then try to reach out to somebody in that field. And at that time, Sheriff Ron Schreider was the sheriff in, gosh, what would it be, 75? Yeah, it would have been 74 or 75. And he was still the sitting sheriff. So I wrote him a letter to, I want to be a deputy, or I want to be a policeman. And he wrote a letter back, encouraged me to, hey, it's a great career. You could do a lot of good for your community. And I still have that letter because I had found it many, many years ago. Like I think I'll talk about in that article, in a folder, which I did for that project. And it's some of the articles I cut out, the paper, and his letter is also still there.
That's pretty neat.
Yeah.
That's a good story about. It's funny how those little words of encouragement or just actions can really have an impact on a kid. If you show them like, hey, because to you, probably having him write you back as the Marion County Sheriff was probably a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, just getting a letter at that age was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Sent to the school, which is even more cool.
Right. I think you got spot on your wall behind you, Kevin, to frame that letter and put it up.
I should actually, no, it's a good thing to do. I'll pull that out and look at that again and find
There
a
you
nice
go.
frame. Thank you.
So you graduate from Harding, you have this career in scouting and the instillment of what values that scouting definitely used to have, maybe still has, I don't know. They kind of got politically woke over the last decade or so. Now, what course did you take to get into law enforcement exactly? So
You kind of bounce back and forth, over your time growing up. And maybe I'll go do this. Maybe I'll do that. And I was still working for the family business then too that we had. So could have been a possible career route. But then I always came back to the law enforcement. So I got involved with the Sheriff's Office Explorer program, which is another, at that time was an arm of the Boy Scouts. So that got me inside the sheriff's office, got me to know all the people that work there and more in depth of what the sheriff's deputies do and the dispatchers do, the jailers do. So then after that, once I turned 21, there was offering the sheriff's office at that time had their own academy. So me, along with, oh gosh, about 23 people, I think, in that academy class, put on and run by John Butterworth and his staff. And after that, then I graduated, and that would have been in October of 86. Yeah, I turned 21 in January. I think we started in April, so then by October, I graduated with certification, took the test, and had certification for a deputy sheriff or any police officer at that time. So then I joined the auxiliary. So I wasn't still quite sure if I want to do it for a whole career. At that time, there was what they call an auxiliary, which is kind of like what a volunteer firefighter is. It's all the same training, does all the same work, just doesn't get paid. So I joined that auxiliary and did that for about 2 years. And I said, it's time to be, I've been 24, 25. It's about time to have a grown-up job. So started doing some applications, and I talked to Sheriff Butterworth, and he didn't say anything at that time, but it was a funny story. Oh, it would have been weeks later. He actually called me when he saw I was doing resumes and sending out applications. He said, "You still looking for a job?" I went, "Yeah, I am." He said, "Can you start Monday?" So that was my interview. But I'd already been through the vetting process with the explorers and the sheriff and the auxiliary, so it wasn't like I had to do a bunch of background checks because they already knew me and had all that stuff done.
yeah.
After that, 35 years later, I'll be around here for a couple of years, and I was there for 35. So,
Well, it seems like it worked out for you. A good career choice for sure.
That's so many great people to work with, work around, both here, the sheriff's or the police department, the state patrol. Got to know so many people, and it's just around with the courts, and it's amazing. I'm very blessed. I'm very blessed.
Now, do they still do the Explorer program and the auxiliary?
They have an Explorer program now. It's called the Cadets. It's not run through the Boy Scouts, although Boy Scouts still have Explorers. The Cadets is a separate nationwide program, and that's a combined program now between the police department and the sheriff's office. And they've got 5 years they've been doing that. So they've got a pretty good group of kids. They got some pretty smart kids doing that now. So I'm happy to see it. I've helped them once in a while with some of their role playing and some of their events. I've still stay in touch and help with that.
Oh, that's a good.
And the auxiliary, unfortunately, is kind of died out because you don't get guys that just want to be the part-time cops and not get paid because you got to go through all the same stuff. And right now it's 700 hours of classroom work to get your certification. So it's probably doubled from what it was I think I was at 360 or 380 when I graduated. So and it's yearly 24 or 30 hours of constant training, and guys with jobs and families, they just can't put in that much time anymore if they're not getting paid for it.
But aren't there other municipalities that kind of have programs where they're like auxiliary, but they don't require like peace officers training schools and stuff?
Yeah, the city police has one. It's their citizens patrol, which they don't, but they're not licensed armed police officers either. And the sheriff's office just started a similar program here in Marion where they get volunteers to help and do things, but they're still not, licensed and can't make arrests and they can't carry a firearm and those kind of things.
Mm. Do they get to have any weapon or nothing?
No, they're volunteers, help with security at events and just it's another set of eyes. And
Gotcha. Well, so you have that career, 35 years in law enforcement with the sheriff's department. Now, I know you spent a good amount of time at the jail, right? And then
about 10 years in the jail. Yeah, about 10 years in the jail. Then I've done work with the court security. I did work in dispatch, and then came back and did all the road patrol for many, many years. And I was thinking about retiring, and Sheriff Bales asked me about if I retired, and came back to work on some new. He just got elected to work on some new programs he wanted to get implemented, which is the SOS, our senior program, inmate work program, which he really wanted to get started. So then I retired for three months, and then I came back and ran those programs for a year, and then turned that over to Deputy Jesse Allen, who's now doing the same thing. And he's really done a great job of taking what I had started and put the base work in and just exploded those programs.
Nice. Now, you are a Republican. Have you always been a Republican, a member of the grand old party, Kevin?
As far as I can remember, I mean, my dad, of course, he was a Democrat, but as far as I can remember back home, when it started back with when President Reagan first came on the scene, and his, how bad things were under President Carter, and how terrible the country was, and that's time that all the factories were leaving and closing, and he was a good man, but it just the time was just terrible for him at that. And then President Reagan came in with the rah America first, let's get America going, and that was the same. I was developmental age at 16, 17, 18. So I think ever since then I've been pretty much Republican.
Yeah, and I know you were somebody that kind of shared your conservative opinions in the old letters to the editor. There's one in particular that I pulled, Kevin, because
okay,
I think it's appropriate, first of all, to the current situation, and two, because it's right at my alley. So, Jay, go ahead and pull that letter to the editor.
Remind me which one that was.
Yeah, we'll see here in a minute.
Civilian of the Year article, is that the one you're after?
What's that?
Which one are you after?
The letter to the editor.
Letter to the editor.
Bear with us, folks.
Okay. Tax and spenders
All right.
failed and will again. Oh my gosh, let's see.
Do you remember that one?
I have to look real quick. Let me just peruse it real fast.
It looks like it was in reference to a national budget, and your advocacy was for they need to cut spending.
Oh wow, yeah.
I was like, yeah, right on, Kevin. In 1993.
When was that? 1993.
I believe it was. Yeah, I believe it was 1993. So this is Kevin and I were talking about this before the show. This was when the Marion Star and other newspapers, print newspapers, were in their heyday. I mean, when you had a lot of articles, and you had people in the community that would actually take time to write a letter to the newspaper, and it would be reviewed and then published. A lot of times, I don't even know how much they really censored or reviewed things. I think they were pretty willing to publish. But
publish about anything, as long as it wasn't derogatory or a lot of profanity, they would publish it as is.
Right. So this was kind of the precursor to social media, comments and stuff.
Sure.
But I just really that caught my eye because I said, "Hey, let me see where's that I am willing to make as many sacrifices as anybody, but to tax me heavily for the remainder of the year to make up for the first 7 or 8 months because I did not pay my fair share is quite frankly ridiculous. Amen. Amen.
Yeah, that's got 1993. So yeah,
Yeah, long time ago. Many
funny how
moons.
it's the same situations keep popping up.
They do. They
You
really
kick
do.
the can down the road.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so you retire from a long storied career in law enforcement. What encouraged you or inspired you to get into politics and to run for Marion County Commissioner?
Well, actually, it goes probably 10 years. I've been really thinking about it. I just kind of really wanted to get into politics. I didn't live in the city, so I couldn't run for city council. I said, no, county commission, I can do that. I could do that. So I paid attention to what they do and how they do it. I just kept waiting for my window of opportunity. And I was fine doing, when I came back to work for Matt and, Sheriff Bales and doing his programs. But I really saw an opportunity coming up. Not that somebody was beatable, but it was a chance for me to get in and let them know who I am and that I want to do this and I have a willingness to do this.
Yeah. And you didn't end up facing, there were no Democrats in that.
There were two, the Republican primary that year, well, in 24, March of 24, there were three. There was the incumbent, Mr. Murray, and then Jason Schauber, city councilman, and then myself. And then we all three ran, and we stayed on our course. We didn't go after each other. And I said, I'm not going to make this personal against anybody. I just tell you who I am. If you want to vote for me because of these things. If you want to vote for the other guys, that's fine too. I mean, you never get all the votes. So it's like going fishing. It's like going fishing. You catch what you can, but you never catch all the fish. So we always say that about chasing criminals. You never catch all the criminals, but you get what you can.
Yeah, and a really impressive showing in the Republican primary in March of 2024.
I worked hard. I had a lot of people helping me out. I worked hard, and I'm very blessed. And God saw fit to get me in this position, and so I will fulfill the wishes of the people of our community. I had a lot of Democrats vote for me.
How was our mutual friend Brian Lovell as a campaign manager?
Brian was great. He kind of kept me focused, kept me centered. Sometimes I wanted to kind of go off on a tangent. I thought almost like getting ready on the attack mode, and he just kind of bring me back to the center and said, "Let's focus on you and not them." So,
well, that's good. Good to have somebody like that in your corner.
Yeah,
Brian's a good guy. We've had him on the show here when for the charter, and then I've known Brian for many years. Good man, and I bet he was a good campaign manager. But yeah, I mean, for somebody entering, their first go around, because had you ever run for office before, Kevin?
No, as a deputy sheriff, I couldn't because of the
right.
Rules and regulations. You couldn't hold a political office. Now you could run for school board or something like that, but you can't have a political office where it's a R&D or an I thing because it's restricted by the ORC, Higher Revised Code.
Right. And your kind of messaging when you were running for office was Vision 2040. Is that correct? Or 2040 vision?
Yeah, that Vision 2040, or think about the year. Because I always said the future is not 2025 or 2026. The future is 2040. We have to lay the groundwork now. I explained and to make it easier to understand. In 2024, I took a second grader, a 7-year-old. By 2040, a 7-year-old who wouldn't go to school, wouldn't put his shoes on, wouldn't listen to his parents. By 2040, that kid is out of college age or out of college, maybe married and has kids of his own. And we have to have a reason to stay in Marion and not go to Delaware or Marysville or Columbus or Cleveland to work. We want them to stay here.
Yeah, we keep hearing that. We've heard that many times. Yeah.
And 2040, 15 years isn't a lot to you and me, but 15 years, that 7-year-old has tripled his life. I mean, and everything his entire life is not even close. I mean, my life is pretty much the same as it was 15 years ago, other than I'm divorced, but but a 7-year-old has gone from a 7-year-old to an adult. I mean, it's a huge difference.
So, a main, as I understand it, a main component of that was investments in infrastructure or attention to infrastructure.
Attention.
Can you elaborate on what your thoughts were with that in particular?
Well, a big part of it too is like we got to get roads, sewers, electric lines, moving, water lines. I don't want to say roads. I kind of thought road to nowhere. But if you build a road, eventually maybe somebody's going to put a business on it. I mean, they're not going to come in here and build their own roads. They want it to be ready, the shovel ready, we've heard that term many, many times. The electric's got to be there, the sewer's got to be there, the water's got to be there, the internet's got to be there. So they can come in, just tap into it and start going. They don't want to invest in that kind of stuff. They want the city, the county, the villages to do that. And that's just the way fortunately, that's just the way it is here or anywhere. We're competing against these other cities that are putting in sewers and roads and electric lines and water lines.
So, with Vision 2040, was there, outside of infrastructure and kind of thoughts on that, what were some of the other main components of that vision in your mind?
That's the biggest part of it, Cody, just to get these things moving and get people invested in our community so the outside people will come here and invest as well.
What do you think are the three biggest challenges facing Marion County over the next 20 years?
Well, you always go to say education, which I think we're doing a great job now with our local college, our local schools and our colleges here. Marion Tech and OSU are offering so many degrees now that you can stay here locally. You don't have to go to, if we use the Ohio State, you don't have to go to the main campus. Jobs, it's the same now as it was, 30 years ago. Jobs. And then jobs and education bring money, and they buy things, they stay here, they improve their homes, and people want to be here, and they want to be part of our community.
Now, Marion County has seen a decline in population here, slight. I mean, it hasn't been substantial. However, projections by the Ohio Department of Development over, we talk 2050, are a little bit more significant. And when you look at the fertility rates, the aging population, what are your thoughts on that? Like, when you're talking about having a Vision 2040 and you look at a decline in the population being projected. Now, that's not a sure thing. I mean,
the numbers are numbers. I mean, projections are with that or that. Yeah, for sure.
Right. But what are your thoughts on that, and what do you think that the county is doing to prepare for that? Because you have to really realistically look at that and say, well, we're going to have a decline in revenues, presumably. I mean, if you look at things on a per capita basis demographically, then that's just a reality. So is that something that's being talked about at the county level at this point?
I guess that's a good question. I mean, people, as we know from those projections, people aren't getting married. They're not having kids. I mean, you go back, 40 years, everybody had 3, 4, 5 kids. You go back 40 years before that, everybody had 12 kids. So that's a steady decline. So that's just a mentality of younger people now. They're not getting married. They're not having kids till much later in life, which you can't have 3, 4, 5 kids if you don't start until you're 30 years old.
Right. And now the average American isn't buying their first house until they're 40.
That's true. I recently read that. So.
That's not that doesn't bode well, especially when you're talking about 40-year mortgages. Be like, I'll have my mortgage paid off when I'm 80 years old.
Yeah, just before I die, I'm having my mortgage paid off. So.
Right. Another component of your campaign was this idea or phrase, "We are Marion," and the idea behind that, as I understand it, Kevin, was trying to bring in the various, not only the city of Marion, which goes under Love Your City in that branding, but to try to incorporate all the county's townships and villages into, I guess, a regional approach. How has that panned out here? Now you've got 1 year under your belt.
Yep, just over 1 year.
As far as um, your term in office, it's a 4-year term, so you're a quarter of the way through it. Have you seen any progress with that? We are Marion and kind of
a little, not as much as I want, but government moves slow. It always has. I mean, you got to remember, it just doesn't move as fast as a private business where you got one guy in charge of everything. But it's moving, and people are thinking. I think people are using it and thinking about it. I mean, whether it's the 7 villages, 15 townships, 7 villages, a city, are trying to be more collaborative in doing things. What's good for LaRue is good for Caledonia, is good for Marion City, it's good for Morrill, Meeker, Waldo, Prospect. A tide rises all ships, so to speak.
In your experience with like the villages, you talk about LaRue, you talk about Caledonia, Prospect, Waldo. Do you find that the local leadership down there kind of embraces an idea of let's all work together and let's all, roll up our sleeves and try to improve things for the county? Or is it a mentality of complacency?
I think everybody's almost maybe like an island. Everybody's kind of in their own, their own little group, and that was the thing I was trying to break through, is to get rid of that. You're not on an island. We're all part of the same county. Because for years, the county and the city would just fight, and the villages would just kind of be in the wake of it. So that's something I want to. Not that we can't do everything together, because there has to be some separations and things we do and that are different. But I mean, we have a multi-county jail, which the city uses, but we can't have, the mayor can't be in charge of the whole county, and the commissioners can't be really in charge of the whole city. So.
Yeah,
by statute, we just can't. It's just not the way the government's work in Ohio.
But I agree with you. I think that you have to approach things from a county level or regional, have collaboration, work together. Because as you said, if there's some economic development that benefits LaRue, it's going to benefit regionally.
Well, they got to have employees, and they got to come from somewhere. We want them coming from Marion County, not necessarily coming from outside Marion County, and taking those dollars out of Marion County.
Right, exactly. So hopefully, we get more people in those peripheral areas that put in some work and try to do a collaborative effort to make things better for everybody. So I think that's a good idea. So 1 year down, what has been your experience? I mean, are you surprised by anything so far in the commissioner's office? Was it about what you thought it would be? Better, worse?
I think it's
what's your
about
takeaways
what I
after-
thought it'd be. I mean, I said I was around it for 35 years, but on this side of the desk where you have to make the decision, it's a little bit different. I already knew all the other office holders. That helped getting to knowing them and knowing how they operate. So, working on the budget here this last couple of months was a little different for me. I never had done that before, so that was a little stressful for me.
Well, we're gonna talk about the budget, but I do have a question with that. Who do you consult with? So if you're a commissioner, do you work closely with the auditor, the county auditor, Joanne Casotis when you're going over all the budgets and the figures? Who's involved in these?
Most of the audit, because Joanne Casotis and her deputy clerk, Angie Smith, they're there. We are so lucky on this side of the street to have the way she runs her office. It's just top notch. There is absolutely no discrepancies in any of the numbers that come out of her office. So we are so lucky. They are so good at giving us the right information and projections for the next 5-7 years. And there are other. We have our County Commissioner Association of Ohio, which is, that's a group of from all of the state, the CCAO it's called. And that's a very good think tank to reach out to and get information. How do you do it in your county? Or whether it's a bigger county or a smaller counties or the same size.
Have you learned anything from that? I mean, have you picked up on any suggestions from looking at other counties and what's working?
A few things, like I said, just a lot of them are doing collaborative efforts too. But then again, we find that some counties, they're inside the county itself are on their own island. They don't talk to anybody. They won't talk to their auditors. They won't work with their treasurer. They won't talk to the prosecutors. So we are so blessed here that we all at least talk to each other and communicate with each other.
Yeah.
I think they take more away from that. Like, how do you guys do it? Well, we just always have. And we just always have great people that at least they may have their own ideas of one thing, but I think going forward, we all have our same idea of where we want to be. So.
Now, when you're talking about, I know I have a statement there or a summary. It's actually from Delaware County, Jay. If you want to pull that up just briefly, some people out there may not be aware of like what a commissioner does, what their duties, responsibilities are. So I probably should have taken care of that a little bit earlier. But let's put that up on the screen. That way people can have a better idea of what exactly the role is of this 3-member panel. Yeah.
Well, it's pretty, except in 2 counties, which they have a different type of. They have a more of a county-wide charter, and that's Cuyahoga and Stark. They have like 12 commissioners. So, but every other county, the other 86 have 3. Whether it's our size, Hardin, Hamilton, Franklin, they still only have 3. So.
Yeah, as you can see here, county commissioners are the general administrative body for county government. They have a myriad of responsibilities, including hearing and ruling on annexations, approving drainage improvements through the petition, ditch process, establishing water and sewer districts, making improvements, and providing for solid waste disposal. They also appoint department heads for offices for which they have responsibility, appoint members of boards and commissions. Pretty much manage the administration of county.
I kind of tell people to make it oversimplified. It's like a board of directors. For
a business. Yeah, exactly.
For a business. Yeah, if you had a college or a business, you have a board of directors. That's kind of what we do. We direct the money. We have no legislative authority like the city or a village or a township to pass laws, but we have to be in charge of the money. We have to be in charge of boards. We have to be, this is annexations, drainage. I learned more about ditches in this last year than I've ever knew before. That's one thing I forgot to mention earlier, how much we deal with ditches and ditch maintenance and getting the water away from people's property.
Well, it's an important function. Yeah, it's one of the things that people take for granted, I think, but a critically important.
I thought that other commissioners like down in the hills, quote, close quote, they don't have ditches, so it's not an issue with them like we have here, and it's more flat.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned the budget and how that has been taking up a lot of your focus and time here lately. And I think people were somewhat surprised, not that they necessarily should have been. I mean, a lot of this stuff is publicly available. You can look at prior year's budgets and the audit reports for Marion County. The most recent audit report that's available through the Auditor of State for Marion County is for fiscal year 2024. And came to find out here a couple of weeks ago that Marion County had a budget deficit, and actually the commissioners voted 2-1, you being the one that did not vote in favor of it, to approve a budget with a $4.5 million deficit.
Correct.
So the other component of that was that the reserve funds or the carryover funds, I think there's about 2.5 million estimated to be left in that. Is that correct, Kevin?
Well, after this year, if we stay the course with this, because we borrowed $4.5 million from that stabilization fund to balance this budget, and it would leave about 2.5 or 2.75 ish going forward as the rainy day fund or the stabilization fund, whatever you want to call it. We call it the budget stabilization fund. And now that we also, before this budget was passed by the board, we probably had cut, I don't know, to almost 2 million, I think. So we did some cuts. There were a lot of cuts, just wasn't enough cuts.
Where were those cuts primarily? Were they across the board?
Just across the board, we'd send it back to each individual office holder. So you got to cut some things here, cut some things there, supplies, travel, education. It's every office holder is elected to run their office and their budget. We are elected to run the overall operation of everybody's budget. So we give everybody a piece of the pie, but the pie is only so big.
Yeah. Now what?
We can't tell them you have to fire 40 people. We can't do that. That's up to them. That's each individual office holder has to decide how they're going to cut more money from the budget. But
now what happens if you say, like, no, we don't approve this?
We'd have to go back to the beginning, and we'd have to start over again, and each office would submit another budget, and we'd still just go through the same roundabout process.
Yeah, because when you look at it, at least based on the prior year's audits, Jay, pull that up with the number of employees.
Number of employees?
Yeah. Because that's what kind of jumped out at me, Kevin, was, as everybody knows, and if not, you can imagine, a large chunk of your expenditures for any operation, a business or the government, comes in the form of salaries and benefits.
It does. Absolutely.
So what is curious to me, just looking through it, so I compiled this. These are Marion County government employees, full-time equivalent employees.
Mhm.
And this is from audit reports of 2021 to 2024. And if you look down at the bottom, so those are total county employees. So in 2021 went from 409.5, and the half is for part-time employees. That's how the auditor state does it. So that's how it appears here. And then you fast forward to 2024, again, before you entered office. Let's just put that out there. Let's stress that. Go from 409.5 up to 480 employees. So an increase of 70.5 employees. All the while, the county of Marion's population had declined during those periods, like slightly. We're not talking a huge decline or anything, but it's not like Delaware where you're adding 30,000, 50,000, whatever, every couple of years. So, then you look and you say, based on the data from the Ohio Department of Development publishes salary information, the average for a local government worker, it's about $52,000 a year or something like that. So if you take 70.5 additional employees in this period of time and you times it by 50, you're talking like $3.7 million. So
just in the salary.
then you can look at all these different categories, or basically not departments. They put everything together. So general government, legislative, and executive would kind of be your operational departments. So the clerk of courts, I think, would be
Mhm.
included in that.
Yeah, they
The
would.
auditor's office, treasurer's office, that sort of thing. They added 22 people. I mean, is it justified? Maybe it is, but what do you, I mean,
Well, that's where it comes down to each office holder has to be able to justify that to not only to the taxpayers, but to the board. So we can't
yeah,
tell them to get rid of them. We keep cutting budgets, and it's up to them to decide how to cut. If they're going to get rid of a copy machine, get rid of or I don't want to see people lose jobs. Of course, nobody wants to see that. That doesn't do anybody any good.
no, I'm not saying that but I think a responsible business owner, if it was a business, you were to say, hey, my sales are down.
Well, you see that
Am I
business.
going to be,
I mean,
am I going to be hiring a whole bunch of people, when my sales are down? Like, I don't know. Like, I think this is something that should definitely be really looked into. And Jay, pull up that other one with the salary and benefit changes over the years within particular departments. So it'll have like the clerk courts and that sort of thing. So yeah, so this one is comparing 2015 with wages and benefits with 2024. And certainly we've had inflation. Okay, I think the rate of inflation between those two particular years, when it comes to wages in wages, according to the Federal Reserve, is something like 32%. So an increase, if you kept everything the same and just, accounted for comparable size, it would be expected that you're going to, for labor costs and whatnot, to have an increase of around 32%. So when you look at like clerk of courts increased 254.49% in that period of time, that's indicative more of additional hiring. There has to be substantial additional hiring in that department. And
I
then
knew they
also
did increase about 3 years ago. They did a pretty substantial increase in wages in her office. I
in
don't
the
know,
clerk of courts.
of course, I don't know if it's 250%, but of course, that's a 10-year, 10 year.
That's 10 years, right? But this is all stuff that I think needs to be looked at. Certainly, just economies of scale to say we want government to be efficient, and it shouldn't be padded with a lot of additional bodies if those bodies are not like doing much. I mean, I don't know. What is this somewhat shocking to you, Kevin?
No, I'm familiar with some of those numbers. Yeah, it's not shocking me at all. That's one thing. Like I said, when I got into this whole job, this whole budget, when I got to actually look at everybody's budget, I was just like, wow. I mean, that's a lot.
Yeah. And then just so it's, placed
And of course,
in,
if you got to consider too, the sheriff, the jail, the clerk, the courts, that's all part of it. The sheriff, the jail, incarceration, criminal justice is the biggest part of every county's budget, which could be up to 70%. That's going to include all the courts, the probation, prosecutor, the sheriff, the jail. So that's a huge. Criminal justice is very expensive for everybody.
yeah, yeah. Jay, last one on these figures, because whatever, people probably don't want to look at a bunch of charts, but with the different county comparisons, just to put it in proper context, and again, this is just going through and saying, hey, what can we possibly look at to find a solution to make the county's finances sustainable? Because we already know that it's challenged right now. So they
Very much.
passed it with expenditures of, I think, what, 33.7 million
It's
and
33.9.
0.9, and then revenues were 29.4.
Yeah, 29.2.
0.2.
Yeah, so it looks like,
So
I think this is the latest one I got from them. So yeah.
yeah,
No,
you got to get it. You've got to get it in balance, and you're going to have to look at like where we were, how we've been going over the last couple of years, how do we get to this place, and what do we need to do? And it's obvious that there's been substantial, these departments, like you said, clerk courts, fairly substantial pay increases, obviously additional hires on top of that. You got to look at it. Got to look at it.
yeah,
If nothing else.
she talked about that when she wanted to bring people up their wages, which you can do as a boss to keep people, and instead of leaving and going to Delaware or Columbus, which certainly within her right, within her budget to do that. But again,
Yeah.
it's a huge expense for everybody.
Oh yeah, totally. So this is a comparison just on legislative and executive expenditures. So that's under the general government, what we just went over.
Mm.
So these departments, clerk courts, treasurer, auditor, that sort of thing. In comparing Marion counties with its neighbors. So, like I said, with Delaware between 2015 2024 saw over a 40,000 person increase in its population, and they're wealthy. I mean, Delaware's got oodles of money, so and economic development up the wazoo, so they can afford to be a little bit more generous in a lot of things. But not only are they wealthy and they saw this growth, but they still only increased those same categories of expenditures by 105%. Whereas Marion County in that period of time was 189, round that baby up to 190. So definitely needs to be.
Why I voted no is to get people to understand it. We just can't keep. This isn't the first time we've used carryover or been behind, and it's been several times over the last decade. But bringing transparency to it, you'd say, hey, we got to start cutting money somewhere.
Yeah. Now, how has the response been from these various department heads? I mean, are they understanding?
Some are understanding, some are very good, did some cuts, and some were everybody did do cuts. I will say that, but they were digging their heels in and being mad about it. But
so Mr. Lovell is in the comments. He says the courts can mandate their budgets. Ask him how courts can mandate their budgets.
Well, the Ohio Revised Code gives a court, a judge, sitting judge, the authority to say, this is my budget, you fund it, I don't care where you get the money, I want it now. Maybe oversimplification, but they're allowed to, by the Ohio statute, to demand monies to run their operation.
And you got to find it somewhere. Is that what I'm hearing?
We have to find it somewhere.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Because they did the same thing with the city of Marion in the municipal court. I know a couple years ago, or a number of years, I don't know how long ago, I can't recall off the top of my head, but that was the situation there. And they ended up having to fund it. They could have tried to fight it, I suppose.
You can,
but
the commissioners have the opportunity to fight it with this, to the state, but you don't win. You're not going to win when you get judges ruling on judges.
Right. Well, that's true. But again, this is your first year, and
we only had that a few times from what I found over the many years, where the judges have on our side of the street have mandated a budget or mandated because they're allowed to mandate it for, I believe they're also allowed to mandate it for the prosecutor. They can mandate salaries. They can't mandate the entire budget, is my understandings. So they can mandate that in the clerk of courts, I believe, because it's all part of the court operation.
Yeah. Okay. So when that proposed budget for 2026 came up, I think that was the last week of December, with the $4.5 million deficit. You voted against it. Mark Davis voted in favor of it, and Andy Applefeller voted in favor of it.
That's correct.
So, what were your reservations with voting for that?
Well, budget, you got to look at it. You got to try to think of it. I mean, government is not like your house, but you still got to think of you can't spend more money than you make. I mean, we can't print money like Washington does and just keep kicking that can down the road. It has to be balanced, and that's why we're using the budget stabilization fund, the rainy day fund, whatever you want to call it, to help balance it for now. But eventually that rainy day fund's out and it's still going to be raining or storming and there'll be no money left.
So ARPA is done, right? There's no more ARPA funds.
There's no more ARPA. ARPA money had to be spent by December 31st, but it had to be allocated to be spent by December 31st of 2025. And that pool after the 3-4 years now is dried up, so it's gone.
So that's cutting how much?
I am not sure. I don't know, probably cutting 4 or 5 million. I would think. I can't speak to that for sure because I don't know. I did not get that number from the auditor.
It's several million. I think it's at least.
But we lived on that money for several 3-4 years. They've been living off that money.
Yeah, just so folks that may not know, it's the American Recovery. It was basically money that was given out when the government was printing trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars during the COVID times,
which then in turn devalued the dollar. So
exactly, it caused all this inflation. That's why you're paying, crazy amounts for every product imaginable. But again, so we got all this inflation, which lingers, but then they cut off the funding.
Yeah, now they've cut the funding. Turn the spigot off, so to speak.
Makes sense to me. So, I mean, wow. Yeah.
You're not going to see a deflationary movement to bring back prices down and wage costs and things like that. So the way the federal government handled that, the Federal Reserve, federal government was just completely stupid. I mean, economically speaking, financially speaking, it was horrible, horrible, horrible mismanagement. So you can thank your federal government for that one.
Yes.
But okay, so
we've had a lot of chatter in our comments over the past year about I know Cody's got a slide on this, the property tax revenue, things like that. If you guys want to touch on that.
Bring that one up, because property taxes, Kevin, are a political hot button issue in the state of Ohio.
They're a hot button issue because your property values have skyrocketed, and because your millage is attached to your value, people keep voting in favor of taxes, your levies and all this. That's how then because of your property values go up, the tax goes, because the tax isn't a flat amount. Some of them are, but most of them are not. They're based on the value.
Right. And like you said,
I mean, our position is reform, not repeal, because you can't just turn that spigot off, because then everything fails. I mean, that shuts down, almost would shut down the entire government. You'd shut down you'd shut down police, you'd shut down fire, you'd shut down schools. I mean, because that's where all that people keep voting for these levies, and they don't quite understand, or they refuse to understand that that's attached to those values, and that's why things have gone up.
Yeah, and there's been some bills passed here at the State House that
recently
are trying to offer a modicum of relief. There's a lot more work that needs to be done. Personally, I think that there are complete foundational or systematic reforms that are needed in government finance and taxation, tax policies. One of the biggest, I'm just going to push it out there, is House Bill 355, which is currently pending. Contact your state senator, contact your state rep, get them to support that. That will raise the
Which one is
threshold.
that? I've had so many of them come across my desk here. I got to
It's
remember.
House Bill 355.
Which one is that?
It's would raise the threshold to pass a property tax levy
Okay.
from
Simple
50%
majority.
plus one to
Okay.
60%. And
I don't
that
remember.
would be
I've not read
huge
that one.
because, you know, anytime that you're wanting to vote so that your neighbor has to pay more money in the form of taxes to the government, the burden should be higher than just a simple majority. It really, really should, because, you know, money, again, is a quantified figure of the value of your time. Your time is your life. So if the government is taking your money from you, then they're basically taking a portion of your life, like your time. So,
well, yeah, you trade your life for money, and when you work, that's what you got to do.
Yeah, you really do. And you know, if the government's wanting to take more of it from you, then there should be a higher burden. So I think if one change comes out of this process, and there's a lot more that's needed when it comes to, you know, reforming tax policy in the state of Ohio, that would be a huge one. So contact your state rep, your state senator, get them to support House Bill 355, and that'll go a long, long way.
I have to look at that one. I'm not familiar with that one. I know that there were the threshold bills out there, but I didn't know a number, so I'll do some reading on that this week.
Yeah, I mean, and I've heard people say, well, you know, then it's going to make it harder to pass. Well, yeah, it's going to make it a little bit harder, but it's not going to make it impossible. For good levy initiatives that are genuinely warranted, and that the people that are proposing them do their job as they're supposed to convince the population to support them, to vote yes, I think they'll have no problem passing if they do the work and it is of genuine need. Because we've seen some of these levies that'll be a substantial increase, high millage, or even income tax implementation for like school districts and stuff. That passed by like 5 votes. Give me a break, especially when they try to run them, you know, during off-cycle elections and things like that. You know, sneak them in. That's not right. That's not right. It's immoral, and something needs to be done with that. So I'm glad that
the
state
special
reps
elections are gone, so that's not going to happen anymore. So that's good.
What's that?
There's the special elections, like the one-time election that they can't do those anymore. So
right, exactly.
Usually bring out a majority of yesers because they're passionate about voting, and they'll go out there and pass it. And the people that want to vote no aren't quite as passionate at times. But I think that's pendulum's a little bit shifted a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, a lot needs to be done. We've seen huge increases. If go on Marion County Auditor, folks, and look at your particular property. If you're a property owner, look at your historical bills, and they go back a number of years. You can go back 5 years. It's even worse if you go back 10 years and just see the percentage increase. So take those figures and then go to, you know, calculator and calculate your percentage increase between what you were paying 5 years ago, 10 years ago, to what you're paying today. You know, it's a lot, 80, 90% increase in a relatively short period of time. So if you're on fixed income, it's a huge, huge burden. It's bad enough if you're a wage slave like I am, you know, and like Jason is, you know. You're picking on us. So check it out, how it's impacted you, because I don't know. I mean, people know that they're going up and stuff, but I don't really know how much people really like
I don't think
look into it that closely.
they don't, not until they get that tax bill, which comes out
Right.
this week and next week. You'll get that in the mail, then you really understand what's going on. But you
Right.
got to stay passionate. Don't just,
Yeah.
oh, well, and eventually, I mean, you got to pay it. Right now, you still got to pay it. Otherwise, you're going to lose your house. But
Yeah, and those
better
sites
moving
are,
forward. How do we bring those down? It didn't get this fast overnight. It's not going to get fixed overnight. So we got to work together to bring these down, or change valuations, change the increase. We attach the increase to just cost of living. They're not going to spike like your graph just showed. They're going to go up gradually.
Right.
those
Yeah, I
sites
will.
are a wealth of knowledge too. We use those sites extensively, both the city and the county and the state and the federal level, and we pull records from them. They're really awesome for the public to check out.
Yeah. And just a word on that for your property, for those of you who are fortunate enough to have property tax liability. There's been several state representatives in Ohio who have recommended that you only pay your first half. So your first half property tax bill is what is going to be due in February. They
Correct.
said the reason for that recommendation is that you may see a reduction in your second half, but that reduction is not ready yet. So if you pay for the full year, then you're going to be having an overpayment. So you might as well just pay your first half, wait for your second half bill, which is going to be due in July, and then hopefully you'll see a small reduction or whatever it ends up being for your second half tax. Have you heard about that, Kevin?
Yeah, I totally would agree with that and say that, because they're looking at you always got to remember that your taxes you're always a year in back. So the changes they pass could reduce your second half of this year. So you just pay the half. You don't have to pay the full, and then wait and see what happens, because they're not going to give you a refund. They just will give you a credit. I mean, the treasurer, the auditor is not going to give you a refund. You've got a credit going into 27, but why give the government more money than they need?
Exactly. Now, so we talked about the budget. So, what are your big plans? What would you like to see accomplished for the county from the commissioner's office in 2026 and 2027?
No, keep moving the same way we're moving. I still want to see more economic development. I want to see more work from our regional planning and really trying to bring people here to help us, get more companies. I don't think we're going to get a Honda factory, but I think we can always get something that can feed these. Or 10 small factories is just as good as one great big factory. Or more, and really want to encourage high school kids to be in the trades. We need tradespeople, plumbers, heater, HVAC people. I mean, electricians, anything with carpentry. Those jobs are high-paying jobs. You can make a great living, and you'll never be out of work. Everybody's toilet breaks. I always like to say that. We need plumbers. Everybody's toilet breaks. Everybody's furnace goes on the fritz here at wintertime. So learn to fix a furnace. Learn to be HVAC. Learn to air conditioning. Learn plumbing, carpentry.
Yeah, that's I know when I was in school, and I'm sure it was the same with you guys. As guidance counselors tried to push everybody to go to college.
Yeah.
And kind of made you feel like you were a bum if you didn't go on the college prep path. So then all these kids, yeah, I'll do that, and then they go to college and they take out mountains of debt, and they come out with a leisure studies degree that took them 6 years. Just stupid. Meanwhile,
you flood a market of cubicles, and they can't find a job in a cubicle because the market's been flooded. So, meanwhile,
right, exactly.
houses don't get Toilets don't get fixed.
Yeah. So now we have, we need a huge shortage. We have a huge shortage in tradesmen and skilled, blue collar jobs and that sort of thing. And the people that go into those, you'll never not work, just like Kevin said, you know. Um, so, and I think Tri Rivers is really kind of a gem, don't you think? As
I
far
do.
as
They have very much cast off that shadow they had in the 70s and even the 80s and 90s of just a place you go when you don't want to go to school. I think
Mhm.
they have definitely turned that around and made that a place, a destination. And the instructors and the teachers and the administrators there, they are definitely keeping people focused on career paths.
Yeah, and between them, between Tri Rivers and uh, OSU Marion and Marion Tech, um, I think as far as the other surrounding counties or even counties of comparable size and demographics, Marion's like really well positioned from that standpoint.
We are. We could
Uh,
definitely be a leader. I mean, we could be a leader if we keep working what we're doing. We could be a hub, if you will.
yeah, totally. I 100% agree with that. So I think it just takes, rolling up your sleeves, having that vision, like you called it, Kevin, of a vision 2040. Um, that's the type of mentality that people need to have. You're going to have bumps in the road. You're going to have some challenges financially, economic development. Let's just briefly talk about that. Uh, can do the whole idea was to replace can do, at least the public private partnership component of that, create a economic development director, but then the city of Marion's financial situation, also the county of Marion, that's not moving forward at
No,
this time. Do you see that like being picked up in the not too distant future, Kevin? Like
I don't want to say
doing
it.
that same
I
position?
think if we keep focusing on a different way, we may not need that economic development person. I mean, we just get our organization like our Can Do, our Chamber of Commerce, our downtown. If they work all together as a group, they can recruit people to come here. They can, in their circles, hey, Marion's got this great piece of land here. Come build your store. Come build your warehouse. Come build your small
Right.
factory.
And I personally think that that's been proven time and time again that government does not drive economic development. Government can implement policies like
We
tax
got
policies.
to stay out of the way of economic. We don't want to create too many hurdles. We just need to stay out of the way so these companies and these other entities can get people to come here and don't make
Right,
them hop through too many hoops.
right. And Marion's got money. I mean, when you look at Marion County's GDP or gross domestic product, we're not poor. So we have wealth in the county. So if you do have these private individuals, companies, um, private capital, they can. If government gets out of the way and it has policies that are favorable to economic development and business growth and investment, then there are enough people, there's enough private capital wealth in the county that it can do good things. It
Absolutely.
can promote economic development and additional investment. So I agree with you. I don't necessarily think that spending money on a economic development director, um, it may be something to consider down the line, but I think it can be done without it. So, um, well, we've kind of covered the gambit here. We've learned quite a bit about our guest, Marion County Commissioner Kevin Davidson. I could not end this interview, Kevin, unless I asked you to do an impression of Elvis. I
Oh my
heard
God,
you
who brought that? Who brought that up?
Oh, who do you think brought that up? It's our boy Brian Lovell.
Oh, my boy, all right. Thank you very much. Or I used to do a lot of a little bit of karaoke with that. Are you lonesome tonight? Do you miss me tonight? Are you sorry we drifted apart? I'll stop there.
That was excellent. Man, I thought I was in Memphis at the man himself mansion there for a minute.
Yeah, my grandma was a big Elvis fan.
Oh yeah, I go clear back to I was just probably 6, 7 years old. My mom was a big Elvis fan. I've listened to his records ever since. Oh yeah, ever since I could put a record on a turntable.
Now I will say, Kevin, last fall, last spring, I don't remember. Time flies. I saw you. I was up in the balcony, and you were down. You were down on the floor at the Palace when they had all the
the Memphis show. Yeah, I had my pink jacket.
Stuff. Yes, yeah, man, you were like rocking that thing. You look like a stud down there.
I bring that out on a few occasions to get comments on that.
Now, who did you think did the best job that night? Was it the Elvis guy who was really good? I thought.
Yeah.
Jerry Lee Lewis, Johnny Cash.
I still think the Jerry Lee Lewis guy was really, really good. And I saw that show, I think 2 years. They had different Jerry Lee Lewis guy, and he blew everybody out of the water because the way he played the piano, and he was just fabulous.
Yeah, I agree. I love the Killer. I love that era of music.
I'm going to the
down.
They got one coming up here 1st February, the Buddy Holly show. Buddy Holly, the Big Bopper, and Richie Valens are doing a show.
At the Palace?
Yeah, I think it's the 7th. Yeah, the 7th of February, the first week of February. Yeah, there's a.
Yeah, we might have to go check that out.
Yeah, and they're doing.
Oh yeah,
You remember, the plane crash was February 3rd when the three killed. So this show is based on the show they were traveling and doing at that time in the winter dance party. And I talked to folks at the Palace. So this company that does this show, because it's the same week, or generally they're at this time, they're doing the show they would have been doing in Clear Lake, Iowa before the plane crash.
Oh wow, that's gonna be cool. Yeah, I gotta definitely get tickets to that. Jay, do you know who the Big Bopper is?
Yes, sir. Growing up on, in performing arts and on stage, I definitely know who that is.
Oh yeah, I love that.
My grandma was a huge Elvis fan. I think I've watched La Bamba at least 500 times. Yeah, all those old guys. I know all of them.
Yeah, I love that beginning of "Hello, baby."
That's it.
It's the Big Bopper here.
Yeah, Amber Cook used to do a tap dance to some of those songs, and she was excellent when I was at Joanne's. That's kind of who inspired me to get into the dancing scene, was Amber Cook.
Oh yeah. Yeah, man. It's gonna be a good time. So check that out if you like good music. The show at the Palace on February 7th, you said?
Saturday, February 7th. Yep.
All right, yeah. I'm gonna definitely get my tickets to that show.
And Palace.
Yeah, right. So, Mr. Davidson, you got any closing comments for the folks?
Oh gosh, I just appreciate all your time and the questions, and I think it was very well done. And your show, and it's really good. And just keep doing what you're doing, and we'll keep doing what we're doing over here on this side of the street. And keep Marion moving forward. And just any questions, anytime you have a question or a concern, call. Our number here, my number is 740-223-4007. 740-223-4007. Or you can reach us at the just call it here. That's direct to my office anytime.
Awesome.
Email is kdavidson@co.marion.oh.us. It's kind of long, but yeah, kdavidson@co.marion.oh.us.
Send them a message, folks.
Yeah, please. We'll talk about anything, or if I can't, we'll find the answer together, or I'll get you in touch with the right person that can. So. Again, we're not everybody's boss here. Once again, the county commissioners aren't the boss of everybody. So people sometimes call in with a questioner complained about the auditor. Well, I don't work. She doesn't work for me, so I can't fix problems here. I can just address her.
Right, right. Well, once again, we thank you for joining us tonight, Kevin. It was a great time. Learned a lot about you. Learned a lot about the commissioner's office. So, yeah, that's what it takes, is that transparency and getting buy-in from the community so that we can all come together and we can do good things moving forward. So,
Right.
For Kevin Davidson, for Jason Foreman, I'm Cody Higley, and you've been watching the Watchman's Report. So remember, folks, a watchman is always vigilant. Have a good night.
Thank you,
Have a good
guys.
night.
Take care.
Sound the alarm! To arms! They are here!